Mauri lived along the coast of western Alaska. He was a very happy chick. His parents were sandpipers, some of the most well-respected and knowledgeable sandpipers in the entire flock. Mauri had enjoyed every single one of his 18 days of life, running around and learning how to catch beetles and flies or whatever insect he could find, like spiders, and sometimes he even found small crustaceans. It was a peaceful and enjoyable summer in the Alaskan tundra. The day Mauri turned 19 days old, something weird happened. His wings began to change. They began to lose that soft and fluffy texture that they used to have, and instead, he began to grow feathers. I mean, real feathers, just like his parents. That day, Mauri was so confused, excited, and distracted that he couldn't even catch one single beetle. The next morning, Mauri's father came up to him and said, "Mauri, it's time to learn to fly." Mauri's father instructed him to imitate his movements. His father ran, jumped, and flapped his wings. So Mauri did what he saw his father do. He ran, he jumped, and he tried to flap his new wings. But he didn't fly anywhere. It was hard work, and at the end of the day, Mauri was very hungry and very tired. For some reason, that evening, the beetles tasted better than they ever had before. Every day after that, Mauri woke up very early to catch beetles, which gave him lots of energy, and then he spent the rest of the day practicing flying with his new wings. After a while, when he ran and jumped and flapped his wings, he was actually able to fly. The days passed by and summer began to fade out. Days were getting shorter and colder, and finding juicy beetles and spiders and flies was getting harder and harder. Something was changing. It was the weather. Winter was on its way. One morning, Mauri woke up and found hundreds of sandpipers gathered together. They were talking about and making preparations for a very long trip. His father told him, "It's time to travel. We are going to Mexico." "Mexico?" asked Mauri. "Where is that?" His father explained how they needed to travel south in order to find more food. Winter was coming to Alaska, but it would be warm in Mexico. Mauri had butterflies in his stomach as the flock took off. He wasn't practicing flying anymore. He was actually doing it. As the flock of sandpipers flew over the Alaskan tundra and rivers and coastal waters, Mauri was in awe at how beautiful his summer home was. After several days of flying without much rest, the birds were beginning to get tired and hungry. One of the leaders of the flock announced that they were about to reach a good place to stop. It was an old lake that he knew, and he said there would be plenty of water and bugs for them to feast on. But there was something wrong. They couldn't find the lake. They searched for hours, but the lake was gone. Instead of water and bugs, they found turned-up soil, piles of rocks and sand, big trucks, and a construction site in progress. They scrambled for whatever food and little puddles of water that they were able to find, and after regaining less than enough energy, they set out to fly again. Mauri had never been so hungry nor tired in his life. He had to try his very hardest to keep up with the flock. Another flock leader said there was a pond not too far from there, perhaps 2 or 3 more days, where they could stop and recover. They flew quietly and tiredly until they got to the place, but once again, the pond was dry. It had been drained in order to expand an agriculture field, and all the marsh plants were dead. There were no bugs to eat. Desperate now, the sandpipers searched for anything to eat and had to sip water drops from plants. they were forced to take off again without having recharged their energy. Some of them simply could not make it. They stayed behind. Mauri's father flew very close to Mauri so that he did not have to fight against the wind all by himself. Mauri noticed that he had lost some of the weight that he had gained by eating all those delicious beetles and spiders in Alaska. The flock kept flying intermittently for a few days until one morning they arrived in a lush marsh next to the ocean. It was the Elkhorn Slough by the Monterey Bay in California. It had plenty of water, plants, animals, and all kinds of bugs. Mauri was extremely relieved and happy to have found this place. He had spent days searching for water, and now there was plenty of water to drink. The flock decided to stop here for a few weeks until they regained enough strength to complete their trip to Mexico and beyond. Mauri was thrilled seeing so much life blossoming at the slough. There were large birds like pelicans, egrets, and great blue herons, and there were lots of other birds too, like plovers, curlews, sanderlings, grebes, geese, and ducks. The water had so many fish, and even baby leopard sharks, sea otters, and seals. The mudflats along the banks of the estuary was Mauri's favorite place to be. He could poke his beak in the mud and come up with a ghost shrimp, a fat innkeeper worm, a goby fish, or even a little crab. Plus, that's where he met his new friend Timo. Timo was a year older than Mauri and showed him the coolest trick. "Look, little dude, this hole is made by an innkeeper worm. They always have two openings, a front door and a back door. You begin poking at one end of the hole. I'll stand guard at the other end and grab the scared little critters as they try to escape from the back door. Then we feast." As Mauri poked and poked, he saw ghost shrimps and crabs run one by one out of the back door of the hole and directly into Timo's huge pelican beak mouth. Mauri and Timo enjoyed a delicious meal, and from then on were best friends. Mauri looked up to Timo and enjoyed hunting together as a team with him. Mauri was happy in his new home. One day, the flock gathered again, and they began to prepare to continue their trip south to Mexico, Costa Rica, Colombia, and beyond. But Mauri didn't want to leave. He had discovered a new favorite home in the Elkhorn Slough, and a new best friend, Timo. "Why do we have to go?" he cried.
"Because that is our life. We are migratory birds, and we have to constantly travel, following the seasons and following our food."
His father told him not to worry. And plus, he would be able to visit Elkhorn Slough twice a year, on their way south and on their way north, up to Alaska.
"Fortunately," he said, "Elkhorn Slough will not disappear like the lake and the pond that we couldn't find on our way to get here." And that is because Elkhorn Slough is a protected area, which means no one is allowed to destroy it in order to build roads, houses, shopping malls, or even agricultural fields. The place must continue to be able to support all the local residents and seasonal visitors like Mauri and his fellow Sandpipers. His father told him to eat an extra large dinner at the mudflats and to be ready to leave by the first light of morning.
Mauri didn't have much of an appetite as he walked up to Timo at the mudflats. "Why so glum, little dude?" asked Timo. Mauri shed a tear as he said, "My dad says we have to leave tomorrow. We are going to a place called Mexico, but I don't want to go. I want to stay here with you and dig out innkeeper worms in the mudflats." "Whoa, you get to go to Mexico? That's my favorite migration spot. They have the best tasting shrimp down there, and the music is the best." "You're a cool little dude, Mauri, but birds don't have wings for digging in the mud. They're made for flying. It's our way of life." My flock is also getting ready to take off for our summer destination. But no worries, little dude, we'll be back here in 6 months on our way back north. Then you and I can play and feast again. You're my best friend, Mauri, and I can't wait to see you again. Mauri felt proud that he was best friends with such a brave bird. Timo was right. He was a bird and must live as birds do. But he still felt nervous about leaving because it was so hard to find water on his last journey. Timo, aren't you afraid of flying for so many days without food and water, like my flock had to do on our way here? I thought I wouldn't make it. Mexico seems so far away. I don't know if I can go for so long again without food and water. Timo told Mauri that there were a few marine protected areas on his route to Mexico that the flock could count on, and that his flock had already passed through. He gave Mauri detailed instructions on how to get to each marine protected area and where to look for the best food at each spot. Timo always had the answer. Mauri couldn't wait to see him again in 6 months. The next morning, Mauri awoke excited about his new adventure. This time, he knew what was ahead of him and didn't feel afraid of not making it. With Timo's instructions, he knew that he could help lead his flock to protected water and food sources along the way.
And as the flock of Sandpipers took off from Elkhorn Slough, Mauri was excited about a brand new adventure waiting for him in Mexico.